Greetings viewer, VentureLink here. Today I'm going to make a VBlog entry. Today's entry is going to be talking about improving fuel economy and emissions in your vehicle. Now, I'm sure whenever gas and diesel, and E85 for that matter, starts accelerating above $4 a gallon or starts getting there, give or take 5 cents, fuel economy always comes to mind, right? And in this regard, every time summer hits around, all the smog alert ads on TV or air advisories or air emergencies or whatever it's called in your area, all those ads get aired too, and pretty much the same tips there get aired whenever people talk about fuel economy, right? All the tips like maintain your vehicle, like change your oil fluid filters, spark plug wires and spark plugs, keep your tires inflated, deweight your vehicle, etc. And of course, as of late with people wanting to downsize their vehicles, of course, obviously it's going to save you money at the pump by going from a big truck or SUV to a Chevy Cruze, but it's not going to do a damn thing to improve the fuel economy in your big truck or SUV. But of course, there's other trade-offs for going to a smaller car rather than staying with your big truck. But that's not the point. Point being is that today I'm going to talk about improving fuel economy and emissions in your vehicle, and 2 tips that really should be shared despite, all the beating into people's heads about the other things. The first one I'm going to discuss is the check engine light, or the service engine soon light, or the little picture of the engine with possibly the word check underneath it. On a Ford Panther, if you didn't check my MAV videos, it looks like this. It says check engine, but for the most part, you would have to turn your vehicle in the run position to see it. What this does is that the light and the computer in your vehicle monitors your emission systems, and every time a fault is found, a code stores. And in modern vehicles, your emission systems consist of a lot of different solenoids, vacuum lines, sensors, valves, even the catalytic converter, which, obviously does nothing like a sensor would, or a valve or something, to directly improve fuel economy or emissions. It's pretty much the last line of defense regarding tailpipe emissions. Oh yeah, and the thermostat also plays an important role with fuel economy and emissions as well, in addition to having good heat. Having good heat in your vehicle. Now, of course, back in the day with OBD1, it was all kinds of bullshit like too much dealer only, too much inconsistency, diagnosing kicking people's asses or whatever. But OBD2 tried to improve most of that. But unfortunately, it's still not a perfect system, because in this regard, you can have a rough-running engine and lose your fuel economy and not set off a check engine light. But with OBD2, it had like 5 different fault codes for one particular sensor in your vehicle. And even still, like I said, sometimes when the sensor goes bad, the OBD2 may not find it. And in this regard, especially crankshaft position sensors, since those are pretty much the heart and soul of your EFI system, no crank sensing, which means no way of sending the spark to your appropriate cylinders, which means you have a dead cold engine that's not going to go anywhere. But the bottom line about your check engine light is, like I said, it continuously monitors your emission system and your sensors. Every time one or more faults are found, the check engine light obviously eliminates and a code stores, regardless if it's OBD1 or OBD2. But of course, OBD1 was always up to like 2-digit numbers, like maximum was like 99. OBD2 is like P0108 or whatever. And of course, there's many, and in addition to all the various sensor codes, like, sensor too high, too low, intermittent, higher than expected, lower than expected, there's still specific ones and vague ones, like system too rich, too lean, fuel trim malfunctions, misfire codes, transmission incorrect gear ratios, etc. I mean, it does help, try to isolate what system you're trying to work with. But like I said, it's still not a perfect system. But in this regard, you can always look up your codes and figure out what went wrong and try to fix it. But another bottom line to this is that every time the code stores, that particular system goes into a limp mode, which means your fuel mixture will get greatly adjusted, either extremely rich, usually, or extremely lean. And in this regard, every time the check engine triggers and you have a code, it always pollutes at 1.5 times the computer's programming, which, of course, nowadays, we always get the California emissions crammed down our throats. Even if you're living in Kentucky and have no emissions checks, you still have California emissions regardless. But if you still have a 90s or early 00 vehicle that still has a federal emissions, it'll be 1.5 times the federal level in that case. Also, what I want to discuss, again, is the MAF or mass airflow sensor. Now, in this regard, I want to do a quick video review of my cleaning of the MAF sensor. If you see my posts on the CrownVic.net Facebook group or on my personal Facebook, if you're lucky enough to follow me there. And as y'all know on YouTube, I cleaned my sensor 2 days ago and uploaded a video on it. Well, as you can see, I went 285 miles. My fuel gauge sits between 1/2 and 1/4, whereas before I was getting like 17 miles per gallon combined. Too much hitting the accelerator, especially on takeoff. And I've even had this during the test drive for what it's worth. Lucky that wasn't an easy fix because now it accelerates smooth. Now I'm getting decent fuel economy in this car. Not bad for a V8. Sweet. Of course, that's just initial impression. Excuse me, an initial impression on this. To actually give a more fair and balanced review, I would actually have to check in, after a couple weeks and a couple gas tank fill-ups and drains to actually get a better understanding as to how I've improved. But initially, so far, I'm loving it. So yeah, before the general steps of maintaining your vehicle, checking your pressures, deloading your vehicle, etc. Bottom line, get your check engine light addressed. Even if you do not live in an emissions testing area, like, for example, Kentucky doesn't do emissions checks anymore. But, like I said, even if you don't live in an area that does emissions, do check it out, especially if your check engine blinks, because at that point, you're looking at a misfire that's bad enough to destroy your catalytic converter, even fouling up the engine oil and causing engine damage. Which, for what it's worth, most of the time when that happens, it's usually bad piston rings, head gasket, and or burn valve. But in this regard with this Grand Marquis, as you all know, it just popped the spark plug causing loss of compression, which that was a somewhat easy fix. Put a time cert in it, good to go. After $600 later at the dealership. Because, I did have a warranty on it, and in that regard, if you have a warranty, try to get it honored before you tinker with it yourself. But, moral of the story, I guess I know what to do for next time the Grand Marquis wants to pop its spark plug. And number 2, if your vehicle has a MAF sensor, clean it. Now, I do have now, like I said, I do have videos on how to do it for a R&R and clean it for a Grand Marquis. Now, obviously, it may work on other Ford Panthers as a whole, but cleaning it is usually not very much different from your Volkswagen Jetta to this Grand Marquis, or your Chevy Cruze, or a Nissan, or whatever else happens to be using a MAF sensor nowadays. R&Ring it, of course, will be varied. Cleaning's still the same. So, anyway, these are my 2 tips on improving fuel economy and emissions. But, oh yeah, one more thing. Temperature gauge. Like I said before with a thermostat, if your temperature gauge wants to sit like at the 1/4 mark and not want to sit at 1/2 and stay there, especially when doing long-term driving at 25 miles an hour or more, do get your thermostat serviced, because not only does that screw with your heat in the wintertime, but that is also going to screw with your fuel economy and your emissions. So also do get your thermostat replaced. I do apologize for saving that at the end and not going over that, but the two main focuses, I guess, was to focus on this check engine and your MAF. But whatever, for real, these was my 3 tips now on how to improve fuel economy emissions in your vehicle. And this can be applied to all vehicles, not just the Grand Marquis, not just the Saturn S Series, or your Jetta, or your Honda. Any vehicle can benefit from this. So take what I said kind of seriously and get to work. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about my video, hit me up in the comment section. Since this pretty much applies to all vehicles as a whole, I'm not going to give shout outs to specific forums. But if you do want to see more videos like these, as well as stances, rants, repair videos, quick tips, VBlogs, and reviews, hit the subscribe button at the top of my video, or any other video that I have. It's not hard. You will see any new videos that I produce. It will be in your news feed, and as always, you can go over any other old videos that I have. This has been Adventure Link. I'm going to close this video out as always, quoting Eric the Car Guy. Be safe, have fun, and stay dirty. See you all next time.